Conrad Murray, in multiple instances, deceived, lied, obscured, but more importantly, Conrad Murray acted with criminal negligence. Conrad Murray looked out for himself and himself alone. He wanted this employment. He didn't want to lose the employment, so he had to say yes. But that's not what a doctor does. That is not what a doctor does. That is antithetical to the legal obligation, the ethical obligation, the legal duty of a doctor. Conrad Murray's actions directly caused the death of Michael Jackson, but the people do not need to prove that. All that needs to be proven to find criminal liability on the part of Dr. Murray is that he was a substantial factor in the death. And as it relates to any intervening causation, as I already explained, it was not extraordinary, it was not unforeseeable. Even if you accept the defense version of the facts, even if one of you accepts that version of the facts, Conrad Murray is criminally guilty of involuntary manslaughter because he was a substantial factor, and any consequences that rose out of that were entirely ordinary and foreseeable. Defense counsel will have an opportunity to speak, and then I will have an opportunity to speak again briefly following that. I want to thank you for your attention. I want to assure you, as I do now and as I will at the close of my closing argument, I will be asking that you return with the verdict of guilty as to the sole count of involuntary manslaughter, because Conrad Murray caused the death of Michael Jackson. Conrad Murray abandoned Michael Jackson. Conrad Murray gave him propofol and abandoned him. Conrad Murray is criminally liable. Justice demands a guilty verdict. Thank you.
Mr. Walgren, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the noon break a little bit late today, so thank you once again for your patience. We'll be in recess until 1:40 p.m., so court will
talk about a powerful closing. Talk about a powerful closing. David Walgren, closing for the prosecution, talking about the need for justice for Michael Jackson. And you know what, Jane? He went through the gamut. He went through every way in which Dr. Murray failed. He went through all the things he didn't do, but he made it human. He made it human. He talked about how Michael Jackson's family no longer have a father. All the things he wanted for these kids. He wanted them to see him perform. Now all gone because of Dr. Murray.
He told a story. And that is, I think, the most important aspect of this closing argument. It wasn't a bunch of disparate elements. It was a story that included a lot of complex information, but it had a beginning, middle, and an end. And it was a brilliant story told with tremendous passion from a prosecutor who asked them to return a verdict of guilty. Let's listen.
Propofol is not utilized in a bedroom. No one had ever heard of propofol being used in a bedroom ever until Conrad Murray did it to Michael Jackson. It's an egregious, extreme deviation from the standard of care. It is gross negligence, and it is a direct cause of Michael Jackson's death.
All right, there you go. That's just one of the causes. There were so many. The failure to call 911, the equipment, consciousness of guilt, so many things thrown out here. I want to go out to our team. Start with Sonny Austin. Sonny, what did you make of this closing argument?
Well, I thought it was very good, Ryan. I mean, it was a textbook closing argument. This is how prosecutors are taught to do it. He started out humanizing Michael Jackson, talking about Michael Jackson's children, painting him out to be the father of children. And I thought that was really, really crucial. You've got to make sure that the victim is present, front and center in the courtroom during closing arguments. I think he also ended on the prosecution's theory of this case, which is Conrad Murray gave him propofol and abandoned him. And then, of course, something that you always hear from prosecutors, justice demands a guilty verdict. I think it was textbook. I think he made a very boring subject matter, really medical malpractice, very much alive. I actually now can't wait to hear the rebuttal because I think he's left the best for last.
And every one of these closing arguments has a theme, and often there is a phrase that's repeated over and over again. And in this case, the prosecutor repeated the phrase, Conrad Murray was out for Conrad Murray. He was not there to protect Michael Jackson. He was out for himself. He was motivated by greed. He was motivated by self-preservation. And he went on the attack numerous times against Conrad Murray. And I thought one of the pithiest things he said was that Conrad Murray did an obscene pharmaceutical experiment on Michael Jackson. To me, that really painted a picture of somebody who was playing with somebody else's life. And then he attacked Ryan. He attacked the defense expert in very, very colorful language, saying that Dr. White exhibited junk science, and what he said was garbage.
And what does the junk science remind you of? Where does that term come from? That comes from the winning team from the Casey Anthony case. They coined that phrase, Jose Baez did, and David Walgren bringing it out right here. And you know what? They used their own witness against the defense, Dr. White, knocking him down so many times in what he said, using his own statements. And here's part of the brilliance, Jane. These visual presentations in court, they can really backfire if they're messed up. But in this case, at every stage, they used the testimony that was already seen, reminded the jurors of what they've seen in that courtroom, and used it to make their point. Even with Dr. White, I would never administer propofol in a home, using his statements against him, and this is going to be the primary witness for the defense.
And there were no glitches. A lot of times, if you have a multimedia presentation that is very complicated, you will have a glitch. It seemed seamless. And what I loved was how the prosecutor would zoom in on little aspects of a particular photograph or piece of video. For example, when Dr. Conrad Murray is going to the hospital after this horrific event at Michael Jackson's home, and you see Dr. Conrad Murray, and the prosecutor says, look at those cargo pants, look at the big pockets, and you see a bulging pocket. And clearly the implication there is that Conrad Murray is walking around with that implicating evidence, the tube, with perhaps the killer propofol still inside, the connecting tube that was presumably what dispensed the killer propofol to Michael Jackson. I want to bring in Beth Karras because I thought that was really a CSI moment where he zooms in on that photograph.
Absolutely, and then it's illustrated further, Jane and Ryan, when he plays the video from the trial of the redirect of Paul White, who on cross was reticent to admit that IV line could be secreted easily in a pocket, pulls one out of his own pocket. Did you see him play it over and over?
But I thought that was a glitch at first, to be honest with you, because it kept playing over and over.
Did you get it? He didn't say what you were looking at. It was just